Hi, this is Mr. McKay, and I'm here to read Ralph S. Mouse, Chapter 9, The Surprise. But whenever I read aloud, I like to read aloud with my dog. So I have Heinz over here, and Pouncy right here. And then we have our old friend Bettis, who's over there. And they're all here to listen to Ralph S. Mouse, Chapter 9, The Surprise. The next morning, Mr. Tanner reported to Miss K, and Miss K reported to her class that no mice had been caught in Mr. Costa's traps. "Yay!" cheered Room 5. "I told you so," said Ralph from the Mitten Thumb, but no one heard him. Miss K wrote the proper form of a business letter instead of a friendly letter on the blackboard, because the class was not planning to write friendly letters to the Cucaracha voice. The class set to work, writing to the editor, explaining that the story he published about the mouse exhibit was not true. If someone had trouble spelling a word, that person asked Miss K about it. She then wrote the word on the blackboard in case someone else wanted to use it. "Outrageous" and "ridiculous" were the first words she wrote. She told Brad, "Yes, blockhead is one word, but can't you find a better way of expressing yourself?" Miss K promised personally to deliver the letters to the paper during lunch period. No matter how many people spoke to him that day, Ralph refused to come out of the Mitten Thumb, which fortunately already had an excellent peephole. He noticed Brad, who still had his arm in a sling, hand a note to Miss K, who handed it back to him with a nod and a big smile. He saw Ryan pass a note to Brad, and Brad pass a note back. Quite a busy bunch, Ralph thought. He was bored and much too warm, but he refused to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing him in his glass prison. When the long, miserable day ended, Ralph found himself being pulled out of the mitten by Ryan. "Come on, fella, you're going back to the inn," he said. "And face all my relatives without my motorcycle?" squeaked Ralph. "No, thank you." "Relax, you can't live at school forever," said Ryan through his teeth as he tried not to move his lips. "Trust me, everything is going to be all right. You'll see." Because Ryan kept his hand closed around him, Ralph had no choice. He had to trust Ryan unless he bit him instead. He decided against doing so because Miss K said hurting people did not solve anything. Ryan shoved Ralph into his parka pocket and closed the zipper all the way. Even so, Ralph was aware that something unusual was happening. Brad got on the school bus with Ryan after saying to the driver, "Here's my note from home." The two boys sat together. "Have you got it?" asked Ryan. "Yep," answered Brad. "Right here in my pocket." "Got what?" Ralph wondered. "The remains of my motorcycle?" "I've always wanted to ride on a school bus," said Brad. "And I've always wanted to ride on a tow truck," said Ryan. "Well, that's easy," said Brad. "My dad will give you a ride. He gets lots of calls up your way when the roads are icy, and he pulls a lot of cars out of snowbanks. Business is good this time of year." "I'll ask the cook if you can stay to dinner," said Ryan. "Wow! Dinner in a hotel?" Brad was impressed. "We'll have to eat in the kitchen," Ryan explained. "And since the hotel's got a microwave oven, sometimes the plates are hot and the food isn't." "That's okay," said Brad. "My dad cooks mostly hamburgers and opens cans of beans." Then, lest Ryan think him disloyal to his father, he added, "My dad makes really good hamburgers, and on Sunday he cooks a steak. Sometimes, if he's really busy, I get my own supper. Then I have hot dogs." "You mean you stay alone?" asked Ryan. "I have Arfie with me," said Brad. "I wish I could get to stay home with a dog," said Ryan. "I get tired of hearing the waitresses tell the cook that the guests are complaining because the food isn't hot enough." Ralph resented being imprisoned by a zipper, and the conversation was boring because it wasn't about him. He thought about biting his way out, but he didn't like the taste of nylon. Besides, a school bus was not a good place to hide. When the two boys got off the bus, Ralph heard their feet crunch through the snow. The inn was at a higher altitude than the town of Cucaracha, and the snow lasted longer. Then he heard his feet stamp up the steps, scratch on the doormat, and enter the lobby. The old clock was still managing its familiar slow tick-tock, tick-tock. To Ralph, it sounded like an old friend. "Hello there, boys," said Ralph's protector, Matt. "Ryan, I'm glad to see you have a friend." So Matt had not lost his job after all. Then, as Ralph had hoped, the little mice must have moved upstairs where they would be unable to taunt him about losing his motorcycle. Feeling more cheerful, Ralph began to jump around the slippery pocket. "Let me out! out, he demanded. Ryan unzipped his pocket and lifted Ralph out, but held on to him. How good the lobby looked. A fire still burned in the old stone fireplace, and the grandfather clock and television set were right where they had always been. One thing was different. The lobby was neater than Ralph remembered it. Ashtrays were clean, and old magazines arranged neatly on tables. The desk clerk ignored the boys, who did not stop to remove their jackets before they knelt in front of the clock. "Do you think it will fit?" Ryan asked Brad. "We'll see in a second." Brad pulled something out of his pocket. "Wow! A Laser XL7, just like you said," breathed Ryan, as Brad set a miniature sports car on the floor and pushed it carefully through the highest part of the arch at the bottom of the clock. The car was low enough, if maneuvered by a skillful driver, to slip through. "See that, Ralph?" Ralph had seen all right. The sleek, mouse-sized car with wire-spoked wheels and knockoff hubcaps was painted silvery gray, the right color for whizzing unnoticed through the shadows. The broad, thick tires would stand up to the rough surface of carpet and made a wide splash through puddles. The doors did not open, but the windows were big enough for a nimble mouse to climb through. And after all, racing car drivers did not open their doors. Ralph was squeakless at the sight of such a beautiful sports car. Why, with a car like that, he would no longer have to hang onto his tail to keep it from tangling in the spokes. He could just hop in and take off. "Come on, let's see you drive it," Ryan set Ralph down beside the little Laser XL7. Could he drive it? He'd show them. Ralph slipped through the window into a bucket seat, made sure his tail was safely inside, grasped the wheel, took a deep breath, and the car did not move. Some noisy skiers came in from outdoors but paid no attention to the kneeling boys as they crossed the lobby. The boys crouched behind the couch until they had gone. "Silly," said Ryan. "That's your old motorcycle noise. You gotta make a sports car noise to make a sports car move." "Stupid of me," admitted Ralph, who had been too excited to think straight. He took another deep breath, made his voice as low as a squeaky voice could go, and went, "Vroom, vroom." The Laser began to roll across the floor. Ralph was driving. He was actually driving this beautiful sports car. He drove it straight into the leg of a couch where it stopped. Ralph roomed again. Vroom! The car did not budge. Matt, who joined the boys to watch, asked, "How's a little fellow going to back up?" Silence. No one had thought of this problem. Ryan's mother stepped out of the elevator. "Hello, Ryan," she said with a smile. "Is this your new friend?" "Yes, this is Brad," answered Ryan with his hand on the Laser XL7 so his mother would not see Ralph. "Hi." Brad was unexpectedly shy. "I'm glad you come home with Ryan," said Mrs. Bramble. "What are you boys doing?" "Playing with a little car," said Ryan. "Play quietly," said Mrs. Bramble, "and if the manager appears, you'd better go out to our cottage. Or perhaps you could show Brad around. He might like to see the kitchen." With that advice, she went off to make sure the maids had cleaned the ground floor bedrooms properly. Brad sat back on his heels. "Your mom sure is nice," he said. "Yes," agreed Ryan, his thoughts on Ralph's problems. Vroom, vroom, vroom! Ralph made a noise like a racing motor. The car did not move. "What we need is your dad's tow truck," remarked Ryan. Ralph found the boys' laughter most annoying. "I know," said Brad.